said it's a 7-month puppy and married you.
Oh, scramble. And Katie came up,
I have puppy fever so bad right now.
and so I made sure that on the last.
You're cute. I told Dee we have time. I said, hey, we have time.
With this pledge, please.
Oh, I have a dog.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, as we start a new month and move closer to the season of spring, we give thanks for your presence in our life and all that you mean to us. In your name we pray.
Amen.
You may be seated. We'll say welcome to those that are live on Facebook. Had a couple already told me they're open on there. That's super. There's a lot of wires and everything over here, guys, so be really careful. I'm not an electrician, really. But we're getting closer. That speaker decided not to work today. You would be able to hear better. That's where we're headed. So give us a little time. We'll figure it all out. But we're able to get live. Those of you that are sitting over there can actually see the live presentation. If you want it, there's not really a lot to see, but sometimes that will come into play where we have guests. And speaking of guests, we have a few. First of all, I'd like to introduce you to Tori Bakley, who's not been here for years.
I'm not a guest.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I pay my dues.
We love you,
It's been
Tori.
a while.
Tori, you know, I was not going to miss an opportunity, you know.
I know.
So it's good to see. Your dad's not here, so we have to pick up somebody. But it's good to see Tori. Welcome. And we did announce last week when Jim Hall was not here. He's a brand new member, and we're excited about him. We're going to get him inducted as soon as we can get him and Ned here at the same time. That's kind of what we're working on right now, so we'll work on that. So it's good to have every one of you. We also are blessed today with the presence of our assistant governor, from the Devon TV Club as well. We didn't have a terrible ways to drive. He's going to come and share a couple things that are going on. Let's give him a big hand. Would you do that?
Thank you so much, Mike. It's my pleasure to be here at the Rensselaer Rotary Club. I know that your club is very actively involved in your community and you do all kinds of great stuff. I know that your leadership wants to get involved in things in district level and international level, and that is awesome. So I just applaud you for your involvement. I'm here to talk briefly about opportunity that this district has to be involved in a global grant. And there are some clubs that are already participating. One of them is the DeMont Club, where I'm a member, and the DeMont Club will be the lead club for this global grant. But we are looking for some more clubs to join us and to donate some funds. Let me tell you briefly about where this is and what this is about. This is in India, in a town of Shimoga, in the southern part of India, and it is a project that has been running for a while, but they have now about 160 kids that have lost their parents due to the corona pandemic, and they are looking for more funds to help these kids. So this project is called Madhavanele, which means home away from home. It's for orphan and destitute children, and it started back in 2005. It has been funded by the trustees of the Vikasa Trust, and they have this house where they are helping street kids who have been abandoned by their parents or who have been forced by their parents to go begging in the streets, not going to school, and they are being their parents and they are teaching them in school, and they have grown up to be good citizens. But now there's these 160 kids that have become orphans that they want to help as well. And this trust does not have money to do that. So there's a proposal for an international global grant that is started by the district of Rotary and the club of Shimoga Midtown. And our district, 6540, has committed $8,000. But we're looking for a total of $6,000 from clubs in the district. So far, we have $3,000. So we're still looking for 3,000 more. There are some more clubs that are interested. And I will give you the outline of this whole project, and then you can talk with your board and decide if you want to jump on. The goal is to get this finalized this Rotary year, okay? So what will this project help provide? Facilities for in-house medical care, dormitories with lights and fans, curtains and partitions for the stay of these kids, and some reading and writing materials, quality sports items and sportswear, quality public address system, a washing machine, a bus, solar system for hot water and lights on the premises, facilities for vocational training, a well-equipped library and recreation, a water purifier, and fire safety equipment, for a total budget of 29 million Indian rupees, which is $39,831. For right now, we have 8,000 from the district. We have 3,000 from sponsored clubs, and the host district is putting in $8,000, and the club from Shimoga Midtown 5,000, and then the Rotary Foundation will match it with 12,800. So I would encourage you to think beyond our borders and see if you can jump on board to help this project. And I will give you the information, and then you can get back to me.
Thank you very much.
Any questions?
Easy crowd.
All right. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Give that another hand. Appreciate being here today. It's always good to have him visit. We get to talk on the phone every once in a while. It's quite the athlete as well, finding out. So don't try and chase him. You're going to catch him because he's pretty fast runner. So at any rate, just throw that out there for what it's worth. And he's headed for a marathon as well right now. So it's always to be around and enjoy the time with him. So working on a lot of things, but today we're going to take a little trip back in time. It's good to have one of our very own Rotary members here in Rensselaer that is very familiar with what he's going to be sharing with us today. It was something that was a little new to me. It will be recorded, so you can let people know that it will be on our Facebook page. And I'm going to let him turn that over. Brian's been a good friend. We've known each other forever, fair board, blah, 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 blah. Good guy. Let's give him a hand as he just kind of takes off from here.
And it's kind of taking off. It's the first time I had to talk and kind of waiting part of it. I put a few slides together, but it's something that's been dear to me for years. I was hoping he was going to be here. He's the one that kept egging me on to do this talk, so I was hoping to be here today. But so looking back, as Orville said when he saw the title, it changed his life too that day. So, but Valentine's Day, 1977, and just for the fun of it, I'll get to that part later. Imagine being 13, 14-year-old, getting ready to get on the school bus. Valentine's Day, you're excited about Valentine's Day, getting ready to get on the school bus, but you get to the Day show watching it, and they pop on and talk about a murder happened in West Central Indiana, near Rockville, Indiana, and the 4 boys were killed. And then you realize that 3 of those 4 boys that were killed that night before. So it's kind of a shock to watching Today's show that morning just before you get on the school bus to hear that one of your friends has been killed in murder. So basically, it's during the night that night before they were getting ready for bed. I think actually Ralph and Reed might have already been in bed. They've been teasing Ralph, the youngest one that was in my class, about Valentine's and all his friends and that stuff, which I think really only had one, Lauren, I think. But they were getting ready for bed, and they came into these, and we'll go into a little more detail on what happened next, I guess. But this was the trailer that they lived in. There was the, it was about, whoops, I guess it. So basically, where the murders happened was here. They always talk about Hollinsburg. Here's Raccoon Lake here, so it's a reference. Hollinsburg just north of here. The old Green Township School was right in here, which I grew up right here. So basically, the way the crow flies, 4 miles from where I grew up. And what happened that night before was 4 gentlemen came in and broke in. They were looking for a place just to kill somebody, just for the fun of it. They had been going around, and Greg Brooks, which is the other one, brother to the other 3, I didn't know him, but the other 3, Ralph was in my class. We were 8th graders, been in the same class. We'd still been in the township school. There were 6 in our class, and he would have been part of our 6. Reed was the next oldest. Then Ray was the oldest of the Spencer boys. And that night, these 4 gentlemen came in, broke into the house, and they were looking for a party that they thought they could find several people with. Three of those were Greg was in his 20s. The others were still in high school. So they think we had a nice Mach 1, yellow Mach 1 Mustang. Raymond had a Cougar, I think, and I'm not sure what Gregory had. So, I mean, they had some nice cars. One, I think one of them was they were put turbocharger on, so they couldn't steal that one that night because it was broken down, but because they were working on it. So they broke in late and rousted Reeve and Ralph out of bed, and then in the middle of it, as they were going through, Raymond came home from work. He was working at a little restaurant in Hollinsburg, and he walked into the middle of it, and they laid them all down with their mother and execution style and shot 11 times shotgun shots in the back of their heads and killed all of them. But mother, miraculously, Betty Jane, had a wig on, and she laid there, and they blew the wig off and listened to her voice die. And she talked about hearing the bloodshing from them, and one of them said something about, I'm flying, as he passed away, but as they went through. But so she lay there until they left, and she walked about a quarter of a mile away to the nearest house, and told them, because they cut the wires to all the electric and the wires to the house, they couldn't make any phone calls when they came in. So, let's see, and that was on Monday morning. Later that day, not knowing what, I mean, everybody's talking on a buzz about what happened that night before down Park County. The next following day in court was Roger Drollinger was up for a drug case, and he knew that he's probably going to get sentenced for long-term sentence. So, so after that, but he was on bail then. So they were at trial that day. He showed up. They cleaned up that afterwards. All went to trial that next day for the hearing, and the whole group was there with him in support of him before going into court that day. So later on, once I started figuring out who's involved, when he did show back up for his sentencing a few weeks later. But the whole group was there. Nobody knew that's what they'd done the night before. So since Betty Jane had survived, she did some drawings of faces. They did get, these are the drawings they came up with for the suspects. So that's all we had to go by for about 30-some days, or close to it, so we basically were living in terror through that time. I remember I had shared the room with my little brother. We had bunk beds, but I slept in the bunk bed with my little brother just because we didn't know what was going to happen or who's going to show up banging on your door next. So we didn't know where they were or who they were or why they didn't at that time. So, I mean, a lot of rumors floated around, but basically, once they found out more about what happened, is basically Rollinger was he was a Charlie Manson wannabe, and he had these followers that wanted to do whatever he said. Basically, he said that if they didn't kill somebody, he was going to kill them. And they went into the thing that night, and he just wanted to see how fun it was to kill somebody, and see what it was like, and go out in a blaze and worry because he knew he wouldn't get sentenced for a long time in this one charge, so he wanted to go out before he got sent up there. So these were the composites. This is what always helped Saul from basically middle of February till about the 8th of March is finally when they finally got a break where we started finding the actual people that were involved. Oops. So we had Roger Rollinger, the leader. David Smith was the youngest. He was only 16 or 17 at the time of the murders. Daniel Stonebreaker and Michael Wright. And they were all basically involved in drugs and that issues like that up in Crawfordsville. One of the sad parts was Stonebreaker, the cousin to Keith's best friend. Keith Stonebreaker was Turkey Run with us, and that they were cousins. And that, I mean, talk about once he found out his cousins, one of them that really messed him up for a long time. So finally, March 8th, Daniel Stonebreaker turned himself in. It was the first one, and then he could have brought out who everybody else was. We knew we were looking for at that time finally. So till then, we didn't know who or exactly they were looking for. Michael Wright turned himself in March 13th. He was out in California by that time. But then there was a chase. The David Smith and Rollinger took off. They ended up going to Florida. I don't know, his girlfriend or I know he was married, so they had a friend, somebody they went with to Florida, and she figured out that they were that she really didn't want to be with them. They figured out they were on the loose, so she got away from them and kind of put herself in, I think, on some other issues. And I think I could find it, but for sure, I think David Smith, they finally caught Louisville, I think, jumping trains in Louisville and finally caught him. And then Rollinger still was on the run. Good Friday, he called his lawyer and said, "I'm going to turn myself in, but I want to spend the weekend with my wife before I do." So they set up in a hotel in Indianapolis, set it up so basically people, private eyes watching. If he tried to escape, that guy was going to be called immediately to turn him in. And then he turned himself in on Monday after Easter, on April 11th. So finally, by that time, we could start to rest a little easier in the neighborhood that they were been caught and be there. So how does this affect come into connect to Rensselaer? Basically, David Smith, his trial was moved to Rensselaer, which was the second trial. The first trial was Rollinger's over in Hartford City, which he was convicted on all 4 counts of murder. And then they got David Smith up here and so coming down the sheriff's with deputies Jim Martin, Doug Light, Jeff Reese was the sheriff at the time, and her policeman Jim Eldridge was in the picture here coming down the courtroom. So I know Orville's got some stories to tell, I think, about while that all happened. So the people most involved were Judge Caney, there was the judge who was assigned to the police. Local defense attorney was Ed Dumas, and Dwayne Doherty was the prosecuting attorney that worked in this case. And then the jury was 5 women and 7. It started out 6 and 6. but Ms. Brenneman stepped down, so they ended up 7 women, 5 men, which Gerald Neasy was one of my customers when I first moved here, so we've had discussions about it, usually on the anniversary and things, talked about it over the years. Didn't realize Louis was one that was on the committee, or on it, that I know. But Mrs. Dunn, I think I know her husband anyway. And Maida Whaling, another one that I knew that I didn't realize was on the jury until I was reading about this the other day. So, and but talking to some of the older jurors, that was the one thing that, and I've already had titled it the title about just for the fun of it, and talking to one of the jurors about it. And she said that was one of the things she remembered was there was a picture of she goes, it's just a weird thing, but there's a picture of an apple core in the toilet, and they asked why. He said, we were just doing this for the fun of it. So, and it was kind of, but I remember the week after it happened, I mean, everybody, the whole neighborhood was in just a shock and wondering where or who if it's happened again. We had police walking down our road looking for weapons. They found one of the shotguns, I know, shades, but rumors were they found some on, one of our farms was on the highway just out of Waveland, and rumors were they found some of them there. I don't know if they did or not, but they all collected those at. But for a little more reference in it, there's a book Mike McCarty wrote, Choking in Fear. Michael was, his dad was, Tom McCarty was one of the state troopers that ended up guarding Mrs. Spencer during the nights when they were kind of keeping watch to make sure nobody came back after. And so he sat with her. But Mike would have been in 4th grade at the time, I think, in little town of Waveland. My stepbrother and him were in the same class. I've known him since he was a little guy, but it wasn't my stepbrother time later. But known Mike since they were younger. But he wrote a book about it. It's kind of broken up in thirds. The first part was talking about how Waveland was before it happened, and then kind of the turmoil going on during it, and then it goes into the trials and stuff. And Stonebreaker helped. He met with him and helped write some of the things. But, so I know some of you probably have memories at that time too of the court case going on. But that's kind of just a brief talk about it. But I remember that day at school when it happened. I mean, it's about the quietest the school had ever been. Other, I mean, just sobbing, crying people. It was, and just kind of living in terror for a while there to figure out what was going to happen next. Any questions or?
Brian knows part of this too. Dennis Smith tried here. I was working full time at the radio station in the 70s when he was tried here in Michael Keeney's court. And he sat slumped down in his chair the entire time, look at him and wonder how could this kid this age commit a crime that he did. He's sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. But the Indiana Supreme Court ruled that because he was a minor, that could not be. So he is still life in prison, but he comes up for parole periodically. The last time he came up for parole was last year. He denied even attending his parole hearing. The next time he will come for parole will be in 2026.
Trollinger passed away in the Wabash Valley Correction Center 3 or 4 years ago. The other 3 are still in Pendleton. They do come up for parole. All 3 of them do now and then. And I know our church has a big write-in campaign whenever it does happen. So they haven't even been supposed to get any parole.
Did they murder again, or was this literally just for the fun of it,
Just
one-time thing?
One-time thing. They went out. They got the guns, I think, over in Danville, Illinois. Dollinger wanted to show how easy it was to kill. They pulled up in somebody's yard and shot a German Shepherd and said, see, it's easy to do. They pulled up in front of the house here. Basically, they all took an oath that they were going to shoot somebody, or if they did, he was going to shoot them, which he didn't actually, I don't think, hold any of the triggers. The other two did all the pulling of the triggers. But the one he went by and kicked them all want to know it live, and I think he knew Betty Jane wasn't quite dead yet, so he said shoot her again, and whoever it was that did that shot hit the boy by her instead, for the most part, knowing it. But it's, listening to or reading the reports from the state troopers that none of them had seen anything like it or never want to do it again.
I find it blows my mind that, no, I shouldn't say that. It just, I don't understand how they would allow this guy to have a weekend.
Well, it was the,
Where is that? Just go get him.
the lawyer.
Why does he deserve a weekend?
Yeah, it was the lawyer that set it up, and the police didn't know where he was yet. It was the lawyer.
That's crazy.
And I think he thought if he didn't do that, he was going to bolt and couldn't find him again. So I think he knew he had him caught, had him surrounded then.
Does anybody know what became of the mother?
They were in the process of opening up a radio station, WXI, Oakland, 105. Heard it a few times. And they got, later that year, the next year, they got the radio station open. And then she did a campaign for the death penalty. They'd go to the local fair, the county fair. She had a little electric chair that they put up and has petitions signed to get the electric chair or the death penalty going, because that wasn't an option at that time. And I still remember going to the Rensselaer Fair, and they had this chair sitting up on a stand right there beside their radio station. And she passed away with lung cancer a few years ago. But actually, she babysat my dad, I think, at one time. So we've known her dad, known her for a long time. So they were family friends. But she survived. They finally did move out of the trailer. Eventually, they moved back for a while, which I still believe they did. But they finally did, and it's just an abandoned house, a garage there still. They had Spencer Boys had a sister. She was Purdue at the time. So she was spared that.
Well, what about the dad?
He had to go to work. He was one of the engineers at Channel 13 in Indianapolis, and he ran through the night. So he just left work about a half hour before it happened before they came in. So that he got to work and found out about it, I think, afterwards. Well, thank you for letting me do this, and it's kind of emotional.
Thank you, Brian. Not too far. It was very little compared to, and I did it, and I was glad you got to share this for the first time with us. And you and I talked a little bit, so that cup means a lot to me too. But stop the tear now. Very appreciated. I hope that gets more time, and it's certainly one for your club as well, and we'll be talking to Kentland as well. And I just think it's there's those kind of things that need revisited and need to be shared. We live in crazy times. I think everybody's been watching the news. If you haven't been watching the news, you probably heard there's a little craziness going on in the world. So that's why, for me, I think a lot of us sitting here feel somewhat the same way, and I can turn that towards Rotary and say, this is why we do these kind of things, because there's nothing bad going on in the world. I'd like to make a positive impact, and I heard some of you say the exact same things, and that's my Rotary spiel. And I've had people been traveling a little bit over the last few weeks, and they go, what is Rotary? And usually my answer is, how long do you got? Because my elevator speech is about 17 minutes long. I don't know if anybody's ever done an elevator for 17 minutes, but I remember one guy who was actually traveling, and he asked me, and so over the period of the next 5 days, he got to hear what Rotary was about in small bites. So it was kind of interesting. And he goes, well, I'm certainly going to look into that. And it's from another state. So that is what it is. Having said that, I talked with Heather all this morning a little bit about Willa. We've got a couple dates coming up. I want you to be aware of that. She is working on getting nominations, and someone nominated for RIVA. That will be completed on the 15th of this month. And we're going to try just shortly after that, get that student here before the event, introduce them, and then after they go in April, or I'm sorry, I have dates wrong in my head. I don't have, it is in April, am I right? Then after they go, they will actually tell us about their experience. So that's on the radar as well.
RILA stands for?
Rotary Leadership Awards.
There you go. There you go. Very, very good. Very, very good. I don't know, Fred, were you prepared today for fellowship or no? All right. You're fine. Good to see you, by the way. All right.
I'll do it if you want.
No, okay.
This will be simple.
This will be
While
simple.
you're doing that, getting that ready, I forgot, I brought the yearbook that can put more room for the Spencer boys in the back, and if you want to look well, I look like long hair in the front.
Everybody-
77, so I had.
Everybody signed Brian's yearbook. Just kidding.
Can you give me a lock badge? It's $1.
Oh, man.
Doesn't matter, that's no one right now.
Congratulations.
What I have, does this
What
count?
are you doing there?
Does,
GLBC track.
There you go.
does, he don't have that. He gets the. Inoculated.
Brian, you don't have Rotary badge on, but you have a badge on.
Good job, everybody.
Give me those.
Good job.
I got a $50.
Oh, happy dogs, that's right, I forgot.
I've got a 60th wedding
Oh,
anniversary.
congratulations.
I guess I can.
Wow,
I got the happy now. We're in the process, I had to place in Florida.
Oh, have a vacation home. Yay.
This lately, but I had an anniversary,
I was gonna say, we have birthday anniversaries.
January the 8th. My wife and I were married for 56 years.
wow.
Seems like 100.
Hey. Still being recorded.
Anybody birthday anniversaries in this month?
Yeah, I did leave them before.
All right, you're just cutting up the pig.
So where are you?
Sue, if you have a quick report, on the, do you know kind of where we're at? I talked to you the other day, if you wanted to share a report where we're at on the color guard.
About that?
When we were on the phone,
Okay.
I thought. No.
I don't think we did.
Okay.
Okay, no, we haven't done anything with it yet. Do you want me to go ahead and get them ordered, or?
We are waiting on, the only thing I'm waiting on right now is the money and to make sure we've got all of the orders together. So we'll get that finished up, but yes, the answer to that is yes. And we'll get that finished up.
Can it go till next week?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I know you're busy.
Next week.
I know you're busy. The other thing I want to draw everybody's attention to, our sponsors weren't able to be here today, was the Empowering Girls project we got going on. That'll happen April 16th. You guys have seen the emails going out on that. We have a pretty decent response so far. Cummings working with us from the Purdue Extension Office, and Terry Fagley is online. Today, we don't have a way to make her talk, so I have to talk for her. She was texting me, and that will be at the fairgrounds. It's ages 13 to 18, and we're real excited about trying to get that more stuff donated. And I have a whole crazy list. First of all, I want to say hi to Jim Ernest, is on Facebook. Hi, Jim. We haven't seen you in a long time. Carol Lakin, Bill Shanley, and Cecilia Ginn are all logged in online. See, it's working already. I'm excited about that. Terry Fagley sent me a list, and I want to read these real quick. Brothers Broadcasting, and John Valvage, DeMont State Bank, Karen Young, Willis Switch, Shyla Brown, Gazette Brush, and St. Francisca, and all have already stepped up with donations. And the registration just went out, I don't know, 2-3 days ago. Already 4 girls registered. So pretty excited about that. KB School, I think, is now involved somehow. And so it's going to get interesting. We have homeschool groups that are very interested in this. Make sure, if you have a business, to print off some of the posters. All of you should have them in your email and play those posters around. You know, it's old school, but sometimes you'd be amazed at the people that will respond to them. This is a black and white version that I'm reading off of. It's actually a pretty pink. And so it's very eye-catching, and the gals have done a great job of putting this together. So pretty excited about that event coming up too. And again, you see that on your emails. Make sure that you print those off and know what's going on. Our next meeting is at 5:15 next Tuesday evening at Fenwick's. Kind of dropped off a little bit attendance-wise. People are busy, I get it, but that specifically is designed for us to bring guests and introduce people to us, members of Rotary. So come out, meet with us, bring somebody, you get a free drink, you get entered into a drawing from the district, and you can win $75 towards your favorite charity from the district. And I think that's kind of exciting. It cannot be Rotary, it has to be some other charity. So we've got Ned is already in the drawing, and actually Jim Hall became a member of that. So there it is. That's how it works. And so it's kind of exciting that that we're able to do that. Did I miss anything else? District events. Got several coming up. Pets is coming up. Doesn't affect everybody. We also have district conference in May. We have Rotary International Convention in June, which is in Houston, Texas. When I say international, I mean 150 countries will show up in Houston, or at least are available to do that. I don't know that all of them show up. It'll be interesting if they do. But that's kind of a neat thing, and it's in our backyard. So you might want to consider going and see what that's all about. Anybody else? I'm done with my commercials. I'm pretty good at commercials, actually. Self-proclaimed. Now, we used to say in church, "Are all minds clear?" And then someone was actually a funeral director told my pastor father, he said, "Listen, if everybody's mind's clear, I'm going to be busy next week." So I don't know. I could say that. So anyway, so.
Do you remember the bicycle ride last year?
I do.
Father volunteered Rotary to help put it on.
Who is your father again?
I know.
I'm just kidding.
I know. I can't remember his name. That's September 10th.
September 10th. All right.
I have no idea what Rotary will be doing in it yet, but we did today.
Yes, September 10th. That's good. Remind me, email please, because otherwise I might come on.
Okay.
And we'll get rolling on that. I know that we shifted a little bit in the structure, so we want to be along with that. And it's a great event last year. Okay. Stand with me for the fourth test, if you would, please. Oh my goodness. Sit down, please. Up and down. This is our church.
Okay, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah. All right. Who do we have? Did you buy a ticket? Good. I need somebody to go. Just reach in there and you pull out Orville Perry's ticket. That's kind of how it works.
965-4306.
4306. Brian, wow.
We're
So
going for you, Brian.
we're voting for you, Brian. Pull the Queen of Hearts out of there. And I'll have to tell you what the winnings is here in a minute.
That's amazing.
Well, their winnings is 0. 1, 2, 3, 4. We are up to $136, so that would give you kind of a. Now, it is in there because I checked last week and I was accused of it not being in there, so we'll, I actually didn't really know, so I looked. Stand with me now for the forward.
That'd be a good trick.
Huh?
That'd be a good trick.
It would be a good trick, and it was great fundraiser. First of all, is it the truth? Is
It's
it
fair to all concerned. Will build goodwill and better friendships. Will be beneficial to all concerned.
Have a good afternoon, everybody.